Hi, welcome back to the show. Let's switch focus away from equities for a bit because things are very, very quiet, and let's get our personal finance segment going. Harshvardhan Rungta of Rungta Securities is our personal finance expert today. Hi Harsh, good afternoon. It is raining discounts on the purchase of new cars these days because of the huge slump that we've seen in the car sales and complete apathy in terms of demands. But you're going to tell us about what the hidden costs are that one should be careful about while buying a car from a dealer. Tell us about that.
Absolutely, Sonia. If you see, the excitement to own a new car is so much that generally people tend to neglect all the hidden costs that come along with it. Now, if a person was to get into the details of the cost that he is paying, very comfortably he would be able to save about 2 to 3% of what is actually the cost that he pays for that car. Let me give you a couple of heads wherein a buyer needs to be careful about. The first is, of course, the AMI scheme. Most of the cars today are sold on finance scheme. Now, if you take a loan today, suppose you take it on 1st July, the first monthly installment is technically payable on 1st August. So, the idea is there is a very strange word called an advance EMI, which has been used for finance executives. Now, let me explain the impact of this advance EMI when I compare two loans. Now, the bank A charges you, say, an interest of 11.3% for a 60 months loan, and the EMI on a 7,30,000 loan works out to be about 15,984. Now, a bank B wants to make it competitive, says that I will charge you 11% and the EMI will be 15,872. So naturally it looks good. It looks that EMI that you are being charged by bank B is lesser for the same tenure and the interest rate is 11%. But at the time of documentation itself, the second bank, the bank B, insists that you give one advance EMI, which means at the time of giving the loan, even before disbursement of the loan, they will take one EMI from you in advance. Now, just this one single change in the mode of collecting your EMIs effectively changes the interest rate not at 11% but now will be at 12%. So this is just one of the financial gimmicks wherein the buyers are completely deceived into deciding, because EMI is the absolute amount of EMI is just not the parameters on which you decide which bank is offering you at a cheaper rate. The second is the second area which you need to be careful about is the registration and the service charges. Now, besides the ex-showroom price, you need to get your car registered. The dealers, the amount that they collect under the registration and service charges is way above the tax that is actually required to be paid to the RTO. The difference, they argue, is the service charges. Now, service charges is again, now if you're going to buy a particular car and you go negotiating with different dealers of that same car, you will find all dealers will charge you the same, they levy the same registration and service charges. They've actually formed a cartel wherein they give the same figure out to all the buyers. So it looks as if it's a standardized charge. But the registration charge, the cost, the tax that I'm talking about is actually different. It is much lesser than what has been collected. So as I said, the difference is towards agent fees. They claim to be giving it to RTO agents as their fees. There are some other miscellaneous expenses. But if you notice, the tax that has to be paid can be calculated by you yourself. For example, a petrol car up to 10 lakh of rupees, if it has to be registered in Maharashtra, the tax is 9%. And if you're going to take it into Mumbai, obviously you have to pay the other taxes. The cost will be little higher. You can calculate this cost on your own and question the dealer for the difference that he's collecting towards service charges. More often or not, you will get vague answers. You will not get an exact calculation as to why the difference has been charged. So if you negotiate hard during these times, there is likely that these guys will waive off those charges or reduce those charges at least. The third is insurance. Now,
go ahead, please.
The third is insurance. Yeah, the third head that you need to be careful about is the insurance. Now, there is this kind of an obsession that dealers have when bundling and forcing you to buy insurance along with the car. So they say that we will sell you the auto insurance, motor insurance also. In fact, Lata, you'll be surprised to know there have been 2 instances wherein I have been personally refused to be sold a car completely because I insisted I will get an insurance on my own. Now, so I tend to, I begin to think that why would a dealer be more insistent on selling insurance than the car? So are they insurance dealers or they are car dealers? Nevertheless, the idea is if you go negotiating outside what has been packaged as a policy with the car dealer, there are chances that you will get premiums offered from different companies who are even much cheaper. And there are different kind of policies available in the market with different add-on covers. So whatever is exactly your requirement, you should be buying that. So you could go out getting quotations from different companies even for a new car and not rely on the dealer himself. Now the fourth and the final charge is the depot charges. Now an ex-showroom price, in my opinion and in simple layman word, means the price all inclusive of all the cost to be given to you at the outside the showroom of the car, of the dealer. Now surprisingly, there is again a cartel being formed wherein all dealers will charge you a depot charge, which is over and above the ex-showroom price. Now if you see, it's like, it's like a biscuit is available at an MRP of 20 rupees, but you have to pay 5 rupees for warehousing charges because it has been stored somewhere and now you have to pay separately. So this concept is completely ununderstandable, wherein if there is an ex-showroom price, isn't it supposed to include everything up to the car being delivered ex-showroom? Why can't this depot charges be included in the MRP or the ex-showroom price itself? So if you negotiate hard and if you talk to the dealer, he will not have any clear explanation. I have tried to seek explanation on the depot charges, and I have not got any clear explanation as to what is this depot charge and why is it not a part of the ex-showroom price. So if overall, if you are going to be negotiating hard during these times, it is likely that you are given free accessories in lieu of these depot charges which have been levied. So overall, if you are going to be sitting and just doing a little bit of research on all the cost, you will save comfortably between 2 to 3% on the total cost of the car.
That's big. Thanks a lot, Harsh. Most useful. I thought when you said hidden costs, you meant parking charges and rising petrol costs.
I see a lot of car makers now running after Harsh because at a time when demand is already so slow, he's making it tougher for people to go
actually,
out there.
most useful advice. Let's take a break, but we've got lots of questions lined up, not necessarily on cars, but maybe on insurance. Welcome back. Just a word on the markets. At this point in time, it's fairly flat, if you please. Nifty Junior has actually climbed a goodish bit. That index is up about a percent, but otherwise we're seeing fairly tepid performance for the Sensex, the Nifty and the mid caps. Continuing with our personal finance corner, Tarun Patricha is our viewer. The phones are creating problems, so we'll just read out his question to you. He's written to us from Goa. He wants to know the best option for investing in debt funds. Good time, isn't it, Harsh?
Well, Lata, considering the current situation wherein we are seeing interest rates rising and a lot of monetary restrictions being put by RBI, I see flattish returns from the debt funds for the coming over the next 3 months at least. Now debt funds have started behaving like equity, wherein the daily developments need to be tracked to decide the future course of action. So with the rising interest rate, the benchmark 10-year yield has gone above 8%, risen by about 50 basis points very recently. So it has impacted the debt funds negatively. So what I would suggest is, if he has a time horizon for less than 1 year, it would be more prudent to stick to a bank FD at this moment, because we're going to see a lot of volatility in the debt segment over the next quarter. Now, if he can stay invested for more than one or say about up to 2 years, then he may consider investing in debt funds. And in case he wishes to get into debt funds, SBI Dynamic Bond Fund would be a good fund to choose in such volatile situations, because this fund gives the fund manager the liberty to modify the duration of the paper that he is holding. And it will be much more easier for him to manage and take the advantage of volatility in current situation. So my suggestion to him, if it's less than 1 year, bank FDs. If more than 1 year, then SBI Dynamic Bond Fund would be better.
Okay, so not just cash is king, but FD is king at this point. Thanks so much, Harshvardhan, for giving us all that advice. We'll wrap up the personal finance segment as well as the show on that note. Business Lunch will come up next and take up all the market action ahead. Thanks so much.